What's poppin', people? It's Dante, currently standing at this elevated view of Philadelphia. This is the South Street Bridge, I believe. And yeah, I'm just enjoying the day, getting the day started off with the nature walk. So yeah, I like coming to these elevated views, whether I'm behind the Philadelphia Museum of Art by the other side of the river, or on this side looking out towards the skyline, right? I like to set my day off for success by finding myself at these elevated spaces. I really do believe that it puts things quite literally into perspective when you can see everything, right? I can look out at the city and beyond the horizon, potentially, you know. It depends on how much your render, like, is your render distance to the max? I try to set my render distance as maximum as possible so that I can see beyond. And yeah, today's thought is become a creator, right? So when I consider being a creator, right, making things, art, I'm reminded of my time as a child spent, you know, in the Wissahickon, which is the woods, the forest here in Philadelphia, where, you know, I spent a lot of my youth. I grew up in Andorra and Roxborough here in Philadelphia, where we had the woods essentially in our backyard. And yeah, I would run around with my neighbors, my friends. We would make teepees with sticks, build forts, sharpen sticks to make spears, you know, sort of role play it like we're going to hunt deer. Oh, this is really beautiful. You know, use stones to build bridges and cross paths in the river and the creek. You know, this sort of like childlike curiosity, I believe, was the beginning stages of creation for me. And perhaps to be a creator, first and foremost, we must, or we should, return to the childlike state, right? That spirit of play, I think, is interesting to consider when I think about being a creator, creating anything, whether it's a photograph, whether I'm writing now, or making these videos, or anything really. I believe that the childlike spirit of play is important for me, and it helps enhance my creativity by putting curiosity first. And so yeah, I think to be a creator is to be like a big kid, right? To be a child. And yeah, perhaps after all, I have that inner childlike spirit still within me, always exploring in nature, always looking to make my own paths and, you know, create something from nothing, right? So using photography as this medium to express myself has been a really beautiful journey. I feel as though when I create photographs, I'm making my own world, right? I'm making sense of the world. You know, not only are my photographs a reflection or an abstraction of the external world, but I actually believe that it turns inward on myself and my soul as a reflection of how, you know, I view the world, but also what's within me. You know, what am I including in the frames? What am I excluding from the frames? You know, these considerations when you're photographing are interesting. And so just as much as what you include in the frame, yeah, what you exclude from the frame is perhaps wise to consider. And so yeah, just looking at these beautiful trees, I find when I look at the trees and I see the branches, it reminds me of the lungs. They look very similar to lungs. And man, I just love hearing the sound of the birds, the trees, the water. And then you have the chaos of the traffic over there. And yeah, I'm just always, you know, maybe returning to nature is good for me. And so yeah, I think to be a creator, to be a photographer, you know, not only are we using the world around us and responding to this sort of stimuli through our intuition, our gut, but the real beauty of this medium lies in the fact that it allows you to explore the open world, right? Where the world is the canvas, right? So you're not confined you know, to any box, right? You're not quite literally in a physical box in your room with that sort of canvas on the easel, whether even it's like a computer screen and you're editing or doing some sort of digital creation with graphic design. You know, there's something liberating about the fact that photography requires your physical body to move through the world. And when I look out at this path, I'm reminded that it is infinite and that there is so much to see and so much to do, where I wake up in the morning with this insatiable lust for life, with my eyes wide open, ready to conquer the day and just go out there and question things and be curious like a child. And you know, even if I were to walk this lane for a few miles, I would wind up back in the woods. I would wind up in the Wissahickon, where I quite literally spent my childhood. You know, this is the path that leads you there. This is the Schuylkill Banks. This is the beginning of the trail. They're actually extending right now with construction. They're going to continue it to the next park over, maybe West Philadelphia. I think that'll be beautiful for Bartram's Garden. But this path, quite literally, it's infinite, right? You have to look at these roads as infinite and endless, where, you know, when I consider the world, I mean, it's insane when you consider how big it is and vast this planet is. You know, really, you could explore every day for the rest of your life until you're 120 years old or whatever, however long you live, right? And still not see everything. And like, that is so, I don't know, it's like a grounding sort of feeling. It makes me inspired. It keeps me curious and imaginative. And I'm always stoked. Look at the graffiti, stay stoked. Yeah, I'm stoked when I think that way for the day. And so, yeah, just reminding myself of that. You know, it allows me to continuously propagate, create, and you know, maybe, yeah, the photograph really is just a reflection of your lust for life, right? Like, how much beauty can you see in a lifetime? How courageous were you when you pressed the shutter? You know, did you throw yourself onto the front lines of life? Maybe these are the more interesting considerations when, you know, looking at a photographer's body of work and considering what you deem to be good or bad, you know? Maybe all these like basic notions are what withhold people from creating. And so as an artist, it's important for me to create anew every day. You know, to not be stagnant, to question myself, to not be caught up with any, you know, one way of doing things, whether it's, you know, a thought I have or a way of life or something. It's always good to question what you think about or believe in, and to remain skeptical. Don't be stagnant, and continuously move, and to continuously make new works. And so as a photographer, there really isn't an excuse, right? Because of these compact, small digital cameras, you can throw it in your pocket, and it's very easy to be in this sort of like state of production or creation. And yeah, I think that's why, it's another reason why I find photography to just be so liberating. And I think what's amazing about the medium itself is that it is democratic, and anybody and everybody can go out there and become a creator through this medium, where, you know, the street is open. You know, anyone can go out there and explore without preconceived notions. You'll be surprised at what you will find, right? To just go out there with this open mind. Yeah, the possibilities really are endless with what you can do with photography, I believe. However, recognizing that things are merely a copy of a copy, right? The photograph being a copy, architecture being a copy of the past, music, fashion trends, right? Most things, ideas, you know, these things are copies. Considering memes and contemporary culture, where the meme is almost like the smallest unit of an idea that is spread. Similar to genes. When you have biological reproduction, the genes are then passed down to the offspring. So maybe it's wise to consider this on the path towards authenticity, where we want to become our fullest self as artists, as individuals, as people. And so maybe it's impossible to be 100% authentic, or to be 100% yourself, or whatnot, right? And so yeah, don't try to be different. I think, you don't have to try to stand out or make something so radically new or be original, because everything is a copy of a copy. But being authentic is a value that I hold dearly to me. And when I consider being an artist, perhaps the goal is to quite literally share your perspective or your POV. And so by using a GoPro like I am currently, just throwing you in my shoes, through the POV, through the super view, currently filming at 1080p 30 FPS, exported to 720p, right? I like to export to the small file size so that I can upload with a quicker speed. I mean, these things are important to me, where I want to have enough space on my platforms that I share to. So like, for instance, if you want to create and become a creator, what a better place than to just make a website? So like, my thought is all of these social medias are relatively, pretty much just bad. The good thing with YouTube is you can search and things pop up easily. But yeah, with like Instagram and all these other things, I highly suggest deleting it and become yourself on your own platform, where, I use WordPress.org, Bluehost.com to host my first name, last name.com. I've installed the Astra theme, and this theme is very simple to use. I think it's the most popular theme. It's easy to use. You kind of got to have a little bit more of a learning curve if you're coming from Squarespace. But once you Google around or whatever and figure things out, it's a very liberating thing, because if you're just creating things and hoarding things and not sharing it, well, then what's the point, really? I think to have a simple solution like a website, yeah, it's a great thing, because the possibilities with it are infinite, and I feel like I'm just getting started. But yeah, I'm happy to share the good word that, yeah, it's much more fulfilling than having a large audience or catering to an audience, right? Where you don't want to find yourself dependent upon an audience or any external validation, especially as an artist, right? And so even with being content and joyful, you must turn inward. And so with these nature walks, recognizing the simple things in life, like the trees, the breeze, the birds, the flowers, all these like very simple things that aren't even man-made. I mean, maybe we put these plants here and terraform and stuff, but this water has been flowing for who knows how long, right? I mean, the Schuylkill is quite literally, I believe, the word for river, and the natives, coined the word Manayunk in the town that I grew up as where we go to drink, I believe, is the native term for Manayunk. And that's like the neighborhood, the borough, whatever, where I grew up, where the Wissahickon begins, where I explored as a child. Even considering my time as a Peace Corps volunteer, where I would draw water from a well in Zambia, Africa, on this sort of remote village. You're very much dependent on the borehole, on the well, this common space where people amongst the tribe, amongst the village, come together and share. And so without this well, without this water, without this space to share, the collective, the community, the tribe would not be. And when I consider the importance of water as this source of vitality, where we go to drink, yeah, maybe considering the collective more, and the community or the city or wherever you may be is a good thing. And so personally, I think to be selfish is to be selfless. And what I mean by this is, just improving yourself, focusing on your vocation. Like me, photography makes me a better person. The more I focus on making photographs, the better I am with others. I think that self-improvement is the first step to then having any sort of change within the world. So being more selfish, I think is wise, right? Firstly. And then once you're confident and courageous and going out into the world, you know, then we can sort of spread kindness. And, you know, I believe simple acts of kindness like giving compliments to strangers, you know, smiling, you know, laughter is contagious, and smiling and being happy, it's more beautiful. You know, it's easy to be angry. How to curb your anger? Perhaps it's wise to eat more red meat. As a man, we have higher testosterone levels. If these levels are lower, it's way easier to be prone to anger and to lash out and to be more sensitive or emotional. But the more you eat red meat, go for long walks, get good sleep, lift weights. I mean, these things really do make a difference in your mental health, and I believe it all just stems through the physical. And so, yeah, I think as a man, you know, it's very simple. Just lift, walk, eat meat. Nothing really bothers me anymore. I mean, it's very easy to quite literally turn the other cheek, right? Thinking of who is the greatest male role model for us, I believe Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus is certainly the role model that we should all look for inspiration in, considering, you know, the virtues and values and morals that he upheld, you know, turn the other cheek being one of them, you know, being a very wise thing. I also believe, you know, his courage, self-discipline, love, compassion, you know, the teachings of Jesus, I feel like we can draw all of our wisdom from. And yeah, maybe to look to the past, to, you know, go back is more important than studying any like contemporary thoughts or philosophies, or, you know, like just considering like consuming media, TV, movies, like all these things are a real distraction. And yeah, maybe you should just turn back and follow the ways of our best friend, Jesus. Even considering, you know, Genesis, the Old Testament, you know, the very first book of the Bible itself, let there be light, right? And then there was light. You know, the story of creation is intriguing to study. And when you consider light as the source of all creation, being the first thing, maybe photography, I mean, really is a superpower to harness the power of the light, to harness the power of the sun, painting with light. For that is merely what photography is after all. And returning to light, returning to nature and following that, and sort of forging your own path as an artist, as a person, as an individual. Yeah, maybe the most wise thing that we can do is yeah, follow the light. You know, where if you're angry and you're just saying negative things all the time and you're bringing misery amongst other people, it's more specifically, this is occurring now on these like online spaces. Yeah, I actually think that the reason for this is they're not out in the sun. You know, they're quite literally sequestered in a cave in the darkness, looking at the screen, reflecting all of these shadows upon it. And it has nothing to do with real life. It's not a good place to be. And so maybe that's where the darkness in the world comes from these days. But yeah, alas, photography really is this superpower. For me, it gives life a deeper meaning. And my ultimate goal in life is to be a creator, to create anew. And what a better way to do that than returning to light and painting with it. Another beautiful walk along the Schuylkill River. yeah, I just love coming here. It's beautiful.